Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Taylor Ballinger and this is my official recap of my experience competing in a bodybuilding show and a powerlifting meet on the same weekend 1 week ago. Now, if you don't know who I am and you have no idea what I'm talking about, you can go back on my channel and watch some of my previous videos where I explain why I did it, what my intentions were, all of that. I'm probably going to go over a lot of it again today, but thank you so much for following along with this experience. It has been a wild ride. It was a pretty grueling 4 weeks of time doing this. Not only did I compete in a bodybuilding show and a powerlifting meet in the same weekend, but it was also a sprint prep to the bodybuilding show in a 4 week prep period. I decided to do this show 4 weeks before I stepped on stage. There were no expectations whatsoever of actually making it to the stage. But the cool thing about this show, it was nationals in Dallas this last weekend, was that I didn't have to actually register for the show until 2 days before the show actually happened. So I had a lot of wiggle room for just seeing if I could get to a stage acceptable look and going all in on it. And I did actually make it to the stage. Um, I'll go over the results of the show and the meet in a little bit, but I am honestly just so incredibly happy that I made it to the stage at all. Honestly, this entire experience just had God's timing and will and blessings and favor all over it. There is absolutely no way that I would have ever made it to the show without God's hands on this. And the way I even ended up doing this at all was because I was sitting at a coffee shop in Lancaster 5 weeks ago, right? It would have been November 17th that I was at Pod 2 in Lidditz praying, doing Bible study, praying over my next year. What is my career going to look like? Where do I want to go with powerlifting, bodybuilding, coaching? And I look up at my computer screen and my email tab says 3,333 unread emails. And I'm like, oh, that's weird. And I do what anyone would do. And I send it to my sister. I'm like, oh, look at this. And she's like, oh, well, what email came through that made that number? So I go to it and it wasn't at the top, but a few emails down at 2:22 p.m. an email came through with the flyer for the national championships in Dallas. I'm like, oh, that's weird. And I start looking at it a little bit more. And as I'm looking at it, it's the same weekend as a powerlifting meet that I had already registered for, the Battle at the Pit. Now, this powerlifting meet, I registered for this meet because I wanted to requalify for nationals in May in Anaheim, California, at a lower weight class. All year, I've been competing in powerlifting in the 90 kg weight class because I was heavier last winter and had no idea that when I competed in February for powerlifting that I would qualify for nationals and then qualify for worlds and then get invited to be on Team USA for worlds. It's this year has been an incredible experience, but because in powerlifting, when you qualify for the next level up, you have to stay in that weight class as you move up. I had to then intentionally, even though it wasn't intentional to be heavier coming out of the winter months last year, I had actually completely messed up my reverse out of my last two bodybuilding shows. I had a lot of stress going on in my life, um, family stuff, work stuff, life stuff, just an immense amount of stress coming out of that show. When I competed at nationals in Pittsburgh in 2024 and gained like 35 pounds in a couple of weeks, ended up coming down to Texas like I always do for the winter months. And that actually helped a little bit, but I had not intentionally gained that much weight going into the winter months. But when I qualified for nationals, my meet was at Power Build February 22nd for USPA. I had to keep pushing food and stay in that weight class. And that was actually really hard for me to do. I was always right at the bottom of that 90 kg weight class. And so I'm like pushing food, weight gainer smoothies all summer and just like trying to stay. And, in summer, it's really hard to, at least for me, it's really hard to not lose weight because you're just naturally more active. You're going outside more, you're getting more steps in. So I'm pushing food, pushing food, pushing food. So when I came back from Worlds at the beginning of November from Argentina, I naturally just started dropping weight. So I'd already dropped probably 3, 4, 5 pounds coming out of Worlds. But anyway, I see this email and I send it to my sister and she's like, okay, I mean, could you do both? Haha, it's like a little joke. And I don't know why, but I decided to send it to my coach, Aaron Chappell, and I'm like, I'm thinking in my head, he's just gonna laugh and we're gonna laugh it off and nothing's gonna happen. And I send this to him and I'm like, both in one weekend, and he literally responds with, I've always wanted to do that. Let's see what we can do. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is turning into something real. So the whole situation getting me into this was just had God's handwriting all over it because, to within the span of 10 minutes go from, hey, let's drop a weight class, just do a powerlifting meet. And I was fully in my head, my mindset at that time was I just came back from competing at Worlds in Argentina on Team USA, which was just one of the highest honors of my life as is. And so I'm thinking, oh my goodness, like this is where I should put all of my effort and build my career is in the powerlifting space. And so we had already planned out my whole next year of powerlifting. I had the meet in Dallas lined up, Battle at the Pit. I'm registered for the Stinsland powerlifting meet in Columbus, Ohio on March 7th, I believe. 6th, 7th, something like that. 6, 7. Oh my goodness. I can't believe I just did that. And so I've lined all this up. I'm going to drop a weight class. I'm going to re-qualify for nationals in May and then hopefully do really well at nationals and then hopefully get an invite back to Team USA and go to Worlds again, wherever that is. So that's where my head was at when this all happened. And within a span of 10 minutes after I'd been praying, all of a sudden it's this real thing to dive into competing in a bodybuilding show and a powerlifting meet in the same weekend. So as I'm digging into it more, I've already got my flights into Dallas. And originally I was supposed to fly into Dallas on the 11th, which means I would get off the plane, which by the way, the little triangle of the Dallas Fort Worth airport, the powerlifting meet, which is technically in Arlington, Texas, which is, for me, if you're from Dallas and you don't agree with me, sue me, but is still Dallas. And then the bodybuilding show nationals was in Irving, Texas, which is, again, the same area. They're all within 10, 15, 20 minutes of each other in this little triangle. So I'm flying in on the 11th and I'm working this out in my brain based on the schedules. The weigh-ins for the bodybuilding show are the 11th at from 4 to 8 p.m. And I would have landed at 7. So I'm like, that's a little iffy, but I could still make it. Then I would wake up, compete in the bodybuilding show the morning of the 12th because it perfectly lines up that women compete on Friday, the 12th. Powerlifting meet was Saturday, the 13th. And cute little fact was my birthday's the day after on the 14th. So big weekend. But I would compete in prejudging at nationals for bodybuilding in the morning of the 12th. I would then, in full glam and tanning and everything, go over 20 minutes to the powerlifting meet, weigh in for the powerlifting meet, get my rack heights, go back over to finals for the bodybuilding show, compete in finals, go to bed, eat, go to bed, wake up, and then compete in the powerlifting meet the next morning. So everything is timing out perfectly. I did end up moving my flight from the 11th to the 10th just to have more time, especially with a bodybuilding show. You never know how travel is going to go. It thankfully was a direct flight from Philly to Dallas. So afternoon flight, didn't have to wake up early. had my flight all planned out, drink water every 8 ounces, wear compression socks, calf raises every 30 minutes, bring my own meals, obviously. So everything's logistically planned out in terms of the timing of weigh-ins, check-ins, rack heights, everything, which is absurd. That's just you can't even, for that to line up like that is incredible. So that's how this all came about. Was honestly, it started as a prayer and then kind of a joke, and then the joke turned into, hey, let's see what we can do, and we were off. So prep officially started on November 18th, and we immediately, so like this all started, I am a get up and go kind of person. 100 miles per hour. If you decide to do something, you decide to do it, and you do it quick. And say we get 3 days in, and I'm like, you know what? Never mind. It's a never mind, right? So I'm like, we're going all in on this. The reason that we were in our heads about, okay, this is going to work, is because neither show nor meet was me saying, hey, I'm going to do this, and I'm also going to be number one and the absolute best out there at both of these at the same time. That was not a goal. That was not in the cards. The goal was to do both in the same weekend, and that was it. There was the only other goal would have been with the powerlifting meet. Obviously, I'm still trying to qualify for nationals at a lower weight class, and there are totals, which means your squat, bench, and deadlift all added up together have to be a certain number for you to qualify for nationals in that weight class. So each weight class will have a different total that they have to hit. So we were actually going for the class 1 total for the 82.5 weight class, which the total we had was 777 pounds. All right. To qualify for nationals, I actually only needed the class 2 for that weight class, but we decided, like, let's just make sure, just in case anything changes over time, anything at all, let's go for the class 1, overshoot it a little bit. So 777 pounds at the powerlifting meet. My total at Worlds was 1,249 pounds. So that's how we're seeing this, as like, I can lose that much weight for the bodybuilding show and still be okay at the powerlifting meet. And again, I will always have a, no matter what happens, I'm going to be okay mentality. So say I go through this entire sprint prep of 4 weeks of like grueling, intense workouts, cardio, strict diet, and neither the show nor the powerlifting meet go as planned. Either I'm late to one, I miss one, I don't weigh in, something goes awry, I get injured, and I don't make it to either one of them. That's life. Life goes on. I will learn a lesson. I will have some sort of, growth out of the situation. I am truly just so grateful for all the things God already gives me. There's no way to lose for me. You either get a blessing or a lesson out of everything. So there's no way to lose, right? Even if I botch everything, life goes on. You go to the next thing. So anyway, remember, I'm pushing food all summer. I was probably at 3,400, 3,500 calories, which to some of you, that's going to sound like a lot. To some of you, that's not going to sound like a lot. Oh, well. So 3,500 calories, which means I had room to cut a lot of calories out of my diet. All right. This would not have been possible if I had not been perfectly set up for that situation by having to stay in that weight class all year. So we immediately dropped my calories down to about 1,400 calories. All right. 90 minutes of cardio right off the bat every day, fasted in the morning. I was not breaking it into 2 sessions at first. I did when we went to 2 hours, which 3 days into this process, we go to 2 hours of cardio a day. Then I was doing an hour in the morning fasted with Clinical Labs thermogenic fat burners. I did take some other fat burning agents, some T3. Occasionally I was taking some clinical labs, thyroid support, cortisol control. So there were a lot of supplements involved in this. And then an hour in the afternoon after my second meal in my lift, 2 hours a day. That quickly snowballed into 2 hours and 20 minutes to 30 minutes a day. And there were some mornings where I had to do that all at one time. And it sucked, especially when it got to the point where the week before the bodybuilding show, I had already planned a trip with family and friends to a Packers game in Wisconsin. That was a tough time. So I'll get to that point too. I'm going to run through a list of things on here to talk about the show, the meet, obstacles, all of that. But this was possible because my food was high. I was not doing any cardio. I was not getting 10,000 steps a day. So I was set up in a spot that was perfect for, hey, let's all of a sudden get the cardio in, the 10,000 steps a day, which came pretty easily with 2 hours of cardio a day, and drop your food to 1,400 calories a day, which at first we were still doing carbs. It was just really low carb. Throughout the process, we then went to a protein fast where I was basically only eating protein with about 20 grams of carbs, 20 grams of fats per day. Again, disclaimer really quick, this is not what I recommend for people. I do not recommend doing what I did. And I will say that over and over again. And I would never bring any of my lifestyle clients through this protocol. I would probably not even, this is not how I prep my clients for bodybuilding shows. I do a 24 to 25 week prep, and we do it safely, and we get lab work, and we check in with mental health. I felt comfortable doing this because I had my coach, Aaron Chappell, on my side, who knows my body already, knows me through powerlifting and bodybuilding. I also had Anthony Deal, who's a fantastic coach and has coached several female bodybuilders, knows gut health, knows lab work. He's been my mentor for a long time. So I had him to lean on. I am also a mental health coach, so I am very, very aware of my own mental health, my own tendencies. I am very aware of my body. I get my lab work done regularly. So there are so many reasons that I was comfortable doing this, and it was a personal decision. I brought it to my coach and said, hey, let's do this. And I was in a spot where I could safely do this, right? My body had been through bodybuilding shows before, naturally too. So I'm not going to claim to be a natural athlete at this point, but I competed, and thank you to Anthony Deal for recommending this through my first and my second show. I did compete in my first and second bodybuilding shows as a natural athlete. So my body has been through the cutting down to a very low percentage of body fat, pushing it to its limits with the cardio, all of these things. So my body's been through it before. And I felt very comfortable doing this because of all of that support, my own self-awareness, where my food was, my cardio, all of these things. So it just, again, just feels like God put me in this like perfect spot to be able to do this thing that I wanted to do. But again, disclaimer, this is not how I prep my own clients. It is not how I would want to prep any of my own clients. And I would not do this with my lifestyle clients. This is not what I recommend as a coach. Do not try this at home, kids. So anyway, now that disclaimer is out there, so I went on a protein fast, like 220 grams of protein, under 20 grams of fats, under 20 grams of carbs. While I was at the Packers game in Wisconsin on a family trip with family and friends, while everyone else was tailgating a Packers game against the Bears still suck, I was on a water fast for 2 days. I did have a cup of coffee, but I was on a water fast while still doing 2 hours of cardio a day. which we will get to the obstacle that was that trip and Planet Fitness is not actually being 24 hours anymore. But anyway, so we start this prep out. I have 4 weeks until show day. So I started on November 18th, and I do want to go over my in-body scans. I will put some pictures on this video as well. But my in-body scans. So total metrics for this prep. 11/18, I started at 179.3 pounds. By 11/25, so 1 week later, I was 174.3. So I had already dropped 5 pounds in 7 days. By 11/28, so 10 days after I started, I was 169.2 pounds. I had dropped 10 pounds in 10 days, and I do have a video about that on my channel if you want to go back and find that. It's titled 10 pounds in 10 days. By the end, so the show was on December 13th, and I will say I did not weigh myself after I got to Dallas, so I'm not sure how much I weighed on show day. But by December 9th, I was 156.9 pounds. So I had dropped 22.4 pounds in about 3.5 weeks. And I believe I was very, very close to dropping 23 pounds in the 4 weeks during the prep. That's a lot of weight to drop in 4 weeks. And the pictures, I will put the pictures up of me starting at 179 pounds and then ending up at 156 pounds. It's going to be a little wonky because another thing that we did along the way. Now, when I qualified for this show in 2024, I was competing in figure, physique, and bodybuilding. I highly recommend not competing in 3 classes at once unless it is your first show and you are trying to figure out where you fit in. There are not very many people that have the type of physique that will fit into multiple classes like that. Generally, I've seen people cross over from physique and bodybuilding to each other. I've seen people do figure and physique. So like usually it's like 1 or 2 different classes, but once you get higher in the ranks, typically you'll be set in a division at that point. Sorry, I said classes, I meant division. So when I qualified for the national show in August, September of 2024, I had qualified for nationals in figure. I won the overall for figure at the 2024 Pennsylvania Muscle for NPC. I won all of my classes for physique and bodybuilding. Bodybuilding, no one else showed up at the PA Muscle. That was kind of funny. But won first all my classes. And then when I went to nationals in Pittsburgh in 2024, 3 weeks after that show, I did not place in figure at all. I got first in my class for heavy lightweight bodybuilding or light heavyweight. I don't remember. I'm not going to do bodybuilding probably ever again. Well, I can't say never, but that was a fantastic experience. But when you qualify for nationals, if you don't know the year you qualify or when you qualify, you get the whole next calendar year to compete. So that was in 2024. Then 2025, I've been competing in powerlifting all year, but I still had that qualification for nationals. So that's how I ended up at that show. Now, the pictures will be a little wonky because I don't have perfect before and after pictures because I ended up competing in wellness at nationals. And that is because about a week out from the show, we decided that I was not going to come in tight enough for physique or for figure. Because figure, you want to see a little bit more of the striations. Their quads are very, like, I don't want to say diced or, like, shredded could be a word you use, but I just was not going to have the conditioning that you need for figure. Most people tell me that I have the shape for physique. However, personally, just as a personal preference, I just don't want to be in that division. And some of you will understand that. I have a little bit of a wider waist. Now, when I pull it up, I definitely can elongate and bring my waist in quite a bit, which is interesting because everyone has told me that I will thicken my waist with powerlifting, and maybe it just hasn't happened yet. But I do feel like I still am able to put myself in certain positions where my waist becomes tinier. Now, the decision to do wellness was because my conditioning would not have been good enough for figure at this show. However, we started playing around with some wellness poses, which I play around with quite a bit, just in gym selfies in general. But I was going to fit into that class a lot more with the conditioning that I was able to bring. I still got dead last in my class in the wellness division, which makes total sense. These women were in prep for 6+ months for this show. It's a national level show, and I didn't know it was the biggest nationals that you could be at. I'm still fairly new to bodybuilding, even though it's been 2 years, right? I'm still just a little baby bodybuilder. So I was not expecting to like win. I was not trying to go for my pro card. And honestly, I had the best time ever, regardless of where I placed. My other metrics from InBody, my body fat mass on November 18th was 38.9 pounds. And on December 9th, I had 20 pounds of body fat. So losing 18.9 pounds of body fat in 4 weeks, that's pretty good. Pretty good. Body fat percentage said, and again, you have to take these InBody scans with a grain of salt because I tried to recreate the conditions as perfectly as I could, same time, make sure there's no particles on my feet or on the scanner, not drinking or eating anything in the morning before I take the InBody scan, which I was taking my InBody scans at Your Life Gym. So I would get there, I would go to the bathroom, I'd go take the InBody scan. Not working out close to bedtime the night before. Obviously, I'm not drinking any alcohol or anything, but just trying to recreate the conditions each time I did a scan as closely as possible. So body fat percentage on November 18th was 21.7%, and on December 9th, I was down to 12.8%. And let's see if there's anything else I want to tell you about on here. So, I mean, pretty interesting stuff. Skeletal muscle mass, it did say I was at 81.8 pounds. And then on December 9th, 79.6 pounds of muscle. 79.6 pounds of muscle. So I don't know how accurate that is because honestly, that was one of the things that fluctuated the most as I was taking these scans. It would go up to 82, down to 80, 81, 79. So it was kind of all over the place. But pretty incredible to be able to drop almost 23 pounds in 4 weeks. And I mean, it was difficult. That's a lot of cardio. I'm going to go through. So I've already talked about my goals. What did and didn't go well for each. So what did go well for the bodybuilding show? I mean, making it onto stage, number one, that was really the only goal for the bodybuilding show, was to make it to a stage acceptable look. Not trying to win. Now, I will say, my mindset, I am an optimistic person and I'm going to fight for it. And sometimes that means being very optimistic in my own brain. And even though I knew I wouldn't get up there and win my pro card, like win first or second overall, I still acted like I was going to. And I think that is something that a lot of people don't have in them that they need when they compete. Whether you know you're going to win or lose or anything, you should be going up there and just telling yourself that you are the best, not in an egotistical way, but in a cheering yourself on kind of way. Like in my head, I was like, how cool would that be if I did do that? Why don't I try and reach for that? And, if you shoot for the moon and you miss, you'll land among the stars. And the stars are pretty freaking great, right? So, like, why wouldn't you shoot for something really, really freaking awesome? And that way, if you miss, you land somewhere in the middle. If you shoot for the bottom level, and you miss, you're not even making it. Shoot for the moon, guys. So anyway, yeah, so what did go well was making it to the stage. What didn't go well, I mean, with the bodybuilding prep, I was on the plan. I hit the plan. I don't miss. When there's a plan, the plan is the plan. You don't miss on the plan, right? So that went well. What didn't go well was because of all the cardio and not easing into it, I was getting blisters on my pinky toe, on the back of my heel. My feet were hurting, and I just had to get through it. There was no, oh, I guess I'll rest for a couple days. No, there was none of that. I already had in my mind, I'm like, if I get injured in any sort of way, like, how am I going to fix this? I'm like thinking ahead to, okay, what could go wrong and how am I going to fix it if it happens? So like blisters all over my feet. Like it hurt to walk, just normally walk. And that's why I've been wearing these slippers literally the entire time because these are so comfortable, guys. I did not want to jump on this train, and I jumped on it because the convenience of these slippers and the comfort is unmatched. So anyway, hurt to walk everywhere, getting little niggle injuries everywhere, and that is a word, so look it up. To be honest, it was such a short prep that I wasn't really going to complain about being tired. I mean, I was, but I was able to just like push. It started setting in probably around week 3 that it was like, okay, this is getting hard to do. But I had so much going on in my life anyway that like I had to just stay on it and stay on top of the things I needed to do, the Wisconsin trip, everything. Now, what didn't go well during the Wisconsin trip? So the Wisconsin trip, that was not something I was going to cancel. We were going on that trip to honor my late stepfather who had passed away, who was a die-hard Packers fan. So we were going to go to the Bears games with his best friends who are our family and, honor him by doing the tour and going to the game and just having that entire experience with them. So that was not something that I was going to cancel because that was a very special trip. And the weekend could not have gone any better. I mean, other than maybe having food at the tailgate. But to be honest, like that right there just proves that like you can have the most special weekend of your entire life. And it does not have anything to do with food. You can go do your cardio and get your plan done and it still be the most special weekend of your life. Now, what didn't go well in Wisconsin was the fact that there are no 24-hour gyms there. It was over the weekend. So Planet Fitness there actually is only open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Saturdays and Sundays. So my plan to get up earlier than everyone else at 4 a.m. to get my cardio all done in the morning so I could spend time with everyone during the day, absolutely demolished, right? So what I had to do was I just had to figure it out and go later in the day and go in the middle of the day, which it all worked out fine. It worked out perfectly fine. Everyone else hung out for a little bit at the Airbnb while I was doing other stuff. And I got it all done. So that's fine. It took a couple Ubers getting to the gym. And on certain days, I had to do all 2 hours and 20 minutes all at one time. And that really sucked. And I had blisters. But I did it because the plan is the plan and you just do the plan. So what did and didn't go well for the powerlifting meet? The powerlifting meet to me went extremely well. Extremely, like I was blown away by how that happened. So like I thought that I would not be as strong as I was. And so again, our only goal was to hit this qualifying total for nationals, right? And I'll go over the meet results. So we opened with a 140 kg, 308 pound squat. We opened with an 80 kg, 176 pound bench. And we opened with a 165 kg, 363 pound deadlift. So, did not know that I was going to be stronger than I was. So, those openers were really light. So, it was a very interesting meet trying to figure out where my strength actually was, because those openers were so light that like this lady in the crowd was actually like, when are you going to put some weight on the bar? And like, that was pretty funny. So then in my head, I'm trying to figure out, do I do a huge jump? I don't want to injure myself. I might be feeling good, but that doesn't mean my entire body is feeling good. So do I do a huge jump, risk injury? Do I play it safe and then maybe lift too light on the next lift too? What do I do? So the next one up, so I started with the 140 kilo, 308 pound squat. I went up to 150 kilo, 330 pound squat. So that's a 22 pound jump, which I do bigger jumps than that when I'm warming up. So that was probably a little conservative too. Still too easy. So then the next jumps up, and this happened on all of the lifts, was I started way too light, played it too conservative on the next jump up. So then I did a huge jump for the thirds, and those were definitely pretty iffy. So my third squat ended up at 368.5 pounds, 167.5 kilos. And that one was tough because just from fatigue and the adrenaline of everything, the bodybuilding show the day before, the meet, and not knowing where I was at with numbers. And also this being the first ever meet where I handled myself and did my own numbers. Like Chap helped me out with my opening numbers, but he was competing the same day. So I made a collaborative phone note so that he could like read through what I was doing as I was doing it. So I had to handle myself on this one, which I'm very proud of that I did. Ended up with my total numbers were 167.5 kilo, 368.5 pound squat. My ending bench was 105 kilo, 231 pound bench. And then my deadlift was 190 kilo, 418 pound deadlift. Now, with the deadlifts, I sent it. I'm like, I looked up the Pennsylvania state records for so another tidbit actually that I forgot to mention is I was trying to drop down into the 82.5 kilo weight class for powerlifting, completely overshot it. So I ended up being in the 75 kilo weight class. I weighed in at, was it 72.4 kilos? So overshot the weight class. So I was still going for the total for 82.5 kilos though, which I got. So my total for the day was 1,017 pounds, 1,017.5 pounds, which is 462.5 kilos. Got myself a dots of 459.07 dots, which is fantastic going into this thinking that, hey, I'm just going to get this total to go to nationals and that's it. But yeah, so completely overshot the weight class. But so I look up the state records for the 75 kg weight class, and the record is like 457 pounds or something along those lines. So I chipped it, which is you can add a half a pound to a I believe that's what it is. Anyway, you can add a very small increment, again, baby lifter here, very small increment of weight to chip you can only do that when you are trying to beat a state record. So I try and chip it. I go for it. The bar barely moves. But, I'm not mad about it. If it's there, I'm going to try it. And it didn't work. So it was still a really, really fun day. I met a lot of awesome people at the meet and had such a great time. Accomplished the goal of qualifying for nationals at several weight classes, I guess now. But yeah, the meet went so well. I guess the part that didn't go well was just not really knowing where my strength was. And so that's a hard one because, again, don't want to injure myself, but also wanted to send it. And you get to a meet and you just kind of want to like put on a show for people. And so it's really hard to, not want to just absolutely send it. But there is a lot of strategy that goes into powerlifting meets. But again, this one was almost a little bit for fun, obviously, with all of the circumstances that were going on and were involved in it. So I was just really happy that it went so well. Favorite part of this entire experience was the people, honestly. The people I got to meet and see at the show, the people I got to meet and see at the powerlifting meet, and just be around people in the sports that I love, and the people at the gym that I work out at. So the only reason this was all possible too is the Your Life Gym in Lancaster, Pennsylvania sponsored me and paid for my registration fees for the bodybuilding show, which was absolutely awesome. Like that gym and that family that I have there, just the support that they all give me. And not, people called it insane when I said I was doing this, but the support that I have always gotten at that gym is just absolutely incredible. I love that gym and I love those people, and I could not have gotten through this without them there cheering me on. Also being in prep, like there's so many bodybuilders there, Ashley, Priscilla, Andrea, Tim, Dan and Heidi, and now Matt Potter's in there getting ready for a show too. So having so many people there that also bodybuild, understand what it takes to do that and lean in and be doing their fasted cardio at the same time as me, and we're all getting steps in, we're talking about it, is just absolutely amazing. And so it's so much fun to just be around people that understand and are on the same journey and are pumping you up. But even the people at that gym that are not in any sort of prep and don't do bodybuilding and maybe don't understand the process are still so supportive and loving and cheering me on and all of those things. So I really could not have done it without all of those people. But yeah, that would be my favorite part about this entire process, is just connecting with people, going to the show and experiencing that level of nationals, and seeing people I did know from online, meeting new people, and then meeting new people at the powerlifting meet. That is the best part of life, is just meeting other people and hearing their stories and cheering them on and them cheering you on, and just getting around people in general. And this is coming, I am not an extrovert. I am very good at extroverting. Actually, I saw a post the other day that said apparently there's a new one called an outrovert or something like that. And that one's more closely what I would be. It explained it as someone that desires deeper connection with people. So, like for me, for instance, it's not that people drain me, it's that, yeah, I love being alone, and I do fill up my own cup, like on my own, being introverted sometimes. However, it can also fill me up to be around people that want to talk about deeper things and talk about their dreams in life and their goals and where they want to go. That fills me up as well. So I can fill up my cup either way. And so I did actually really appreciate that new term of being is it an outrovert? I don't even know. I'll have to find the post, but don't believe everything you read online. But it made sense, and that's what I loved about these spaces, is in both of these spaces, people are at this level of vulnerability where you're really putting yourself out there in both situations. Bodybuilding, like, you're really putting yourself out there in your body, and you're letting people judge you and look at you and judge the way you move and if your physique looks like it should. And like you go up there and you literally know that people are picking you apart, and if you stumble on stage, people are probably going, ooh, and talking about it, and people are still going to cheer you on and everything, but you're really putting your entire self out there. And then in powerlifting, it's no different. You are standing up in front of a bunch of people and you are trying to do something hard, and sometimes you fail at it. And sure enough, in powerlifting, yeah, you don't look pretty sometimes while you're up there. So both sports, have a lot of differences. And I even talked about this with some people, is one of the biggest differences is so funny. When you show up to bodybuilding, obviously people are depleted and they're nervous and they're glammed up and they're tanned up and glazed and trying not to mess up their tan. And they're so in their head about like how they are going to look on stage and everything, that there is a little bit of like an anxious tension, but people are still being supportive and saying hi. Not everyone is, there can be some unkind people. So I'm sorry if you've ever had an experience in that space that wasn't a good one with someone, but there are a lot of people in that space that make it a really, really good experience. But you do also have to take the other experiences with a grain of salt, because people are malnourished and tired and hungry and nervous and anxious, and so you will get a little bit of I'm pretty sure we've all experienced when we are hangry and we snap at someone and we didn't mean to. So sometimes that'll happen. But then at a powerlifting meet, like, people will go on cuts for powerlifting meets, and some people are very focused, but a lot of the times people have been eating well, they're about to lift heavy, people are warming up together, so there's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences with that. And but overall, it's still a bunch of people going for the same goals, helping each other out. I've never had a situation where someone tries to like tear another person down or like psychologically get in their head so they don't do as well. What I see on both accounts is people sharing their equipment, girls helping other girls out with their bikini and their hair and their makeup, and do you have a sewing kit? Do you have this kind of makeup? Or, and like trading stuff to make sure everyone can get on that stage or get on that platform and be successful in what they do. Now, powerlifting is definitely like you either lift the weight or you don't type deal. But like even at this powerlifting meet, I didn't know how hungry I would be. I was so tired after the bodybuilding show that I went back to my Airbnb and I fell asleep. Before I washed my tan off and before I ate, I fell asleep. So I was so grateful to meet a friend named Dina there, and she brought so many snacks and like shared them with me and was like, take whatever you want. And I'm so grateful for that, because without these communities being so kind and helping each other, I would not have made it through this experience. So I would just like to take a moment to just thank everyone that was involved, because I could not have done this alone. First of all, there's no way I could do this without God. God prepared me for this, set me up in a good spot for this, positioned me to be successful in this. The timing, the people brought me favor and strength and all of the things. Like, God is the reason for all of this happening, and the reason that anything good happens in my life, and so much good happens in my life. So first and foremost, just thank you, God, for this experience. But then also, thank you to your life for sponsoring me and supporting me and being there for me. And my sister is my biggest cheerer and supporter, and just comes out to her streams every single one of my shows, and is there to answer my calls and my voice notes and my texts and make me laugh and everything. She's such a huge reason that I make it anywhere in life. I do not think I would be here without her. If I was, I'd be mentally insane. So Um, but yeah, my coach, Aaron Chappell, who is just absolutely incredible powerlifting coach, incredible lifestyle coach, incredible bodybuilding coach, just great godly man in general, and his wife Kristen for hyping me up and stealing his phone to text me and voice note me. Anthony Deal for always answering my spiraling text messages when I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to make it or do this, or what do you think I should do, that kind of stuff. He's a great mentor. He knows so much about a lot of different things. I mean, the friends that were there along the way supporting me, Dan and Lori in Wisconsin when we went to the game, for picking me up chicken, letting me cook chicken the first night, and tuna packets, and making sure I had everything I needed, helping me order at the restaurant we went to get my piece of grilled chicken and piece of lettuce, all the things. So there's just so many people along the way that, Lisa, my posing coach, for texting me back when I asked her questions about wellness, because I literally only practiced the wellness poses for a week before stepping on stage. But yeah, just so many people to thank. But my point is, this is not neither one of these are individual sports in any sense. The communities that you have around you and the coaches and everything it's everything. There's no way you can do this alone, and if you're trying to do it alone and you're not getting very far, that's probably why. You have to get around each other and support each other and be there for each other. So if you are in anywhere in life and you're trying to do things by yourself, there's a quote that says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. And that quote is just insanely true. Also, thank you to the Army guys that were at the powerlifting meet and were so kind and cheering us all on and recording videos of us lifting, and that was super cool as well. They gave us like little swag bags, and I just thought that was so awesome. All the girls backstage at the bodybuilding show that were hyping me up and talking to me, and we got to cheer each other on, and standing in line before you go on stage and you're just talking to each other and relating to each other and pumping each other up. It's all so amazing and fun, and I love it. One of my favorite parts about the whole experience of both was just when you lean into something like that, you can feel yourself get acclimated to stuff pretty quickly. So maybe the first couple days of doing that much cardio kind of sucked, but like you feel yourself get better at it immediately. The more you practice anything, the better you're going to be at it, and it's going to be amazing. Lessons learned from the entire experience. So lessons learned: practice posing on a carpet and in hot rooms, and hold your front pose for as long as you possibly can, maybe 30 minutes to an hour. When I went up onto that stage, every posing room in every gym is like gym flooring or tile or concrete, and it's easy to or wood flooring, and it's easy to spin around on your heels. You get up onto that stage at nationals, it's carpet. It's brand new, kind of thick, like school carpet almost, and you don't spin. So you have to be prepared for that and be able to adjust your posing and your walking with that carpet. It was really hot up there with the lights, very hot. So just be prepared for that. You stand on the line. So some shows you'll get up on the stage and you'll get off, and then you'll all come up on a line, and then you'll do your comparisons. At this show, we would get up, we would do our comparisons, and then we'd go over the line while other people did their individual posing and their comparisons. So we were up there for a very long time, and they want to see that you're conditioned and you can hold it. Switch sides based on which side of the stage you're on. So I just noticed in a lot of my stage shots, had I been in my front pose on the other side, it probably would have looked better to the judges, because I was on the far right hand side. If you were a judge, I was on the far right hand side of the stage. So that was a little side note for me. And again, remember, even though that this was like some sort of like little bucket list, like do a bodybuilding show and a powerlifting meet on the same weekend, I am still going to take this and take every lesson I've learned from this and get better at it. I got off that stage, and even though I'm planning on doing more powerlifting this year, I got off that stage. I've been practicing my posing and my walk and my heels every day at the gym, every day that I go to the gym. Everything is an opportunity to get better, and I'm going to use all of this to get better and better and better. And I've got some big plans and goals for this year coming up. Lesson learned: don't underestimate myself with the lifting. Find my limits at each body weight and under fatigue. So that was a really cool experience. And now I know that I can lift a lot more than I think I can, even under mass fatigue like that. We didn't have time to really drop fatigue, especially with all of the travel coming back from Wisconsin on the 8th. And then I was in Lancaster on the 9th, and then I left for Dallas on the 10th. That's a lot of travel. Travel takes it out of you. I was doing mass amounts of cardio. Food was really low. I did a two-day fast in Wisconsin. One of the biggest things too is I was experimenting with a GLP-1, and I was taking some peptides for recovery as well. Again, if you haven't seen my previous videos, I am being very cautious about what I'm telling people that I did, because I don't want any younger people or any inexperienced athletes or anyone without a coach to watch this and go, oh, I can lose 23 pounds in 4 weeks if I just do this, this, and this. And without any experience trying to do that on your own, get a coach. And also, again, I do not recommend this for anyone. This was an extreme thing I did to push myself as an athlete to see what I could do in 4 weeks. I don't recommend you do this. This is the official disclaimer again. And if you would like to know exactly what my protocol was, you can message me directly. I'm not going to publicly post or publicly talk about everything I was doing and in what dosages. I will message you privately and talk to you about it, but I do not want any younger people watching this or any inexperienced lifestyle, which lifestyle is just everyday people, clients that don't have a coach, don't have a support system, and are not as self-aware of themselves or their body and don't get their lab work done, trying to do these things without any sort of direction just based on what I say that I did for these 4 weeks. I do not want that on my conscience, and I have personal convictions about that, so that's why I'm not going to say specifics about these things. So hope you're okay with that, because you have to be. All in all, this experience, and if you have any questions about any of that, because I'm sure I left some big points out, and I'll have to talk about it again, but if you have any questions about any of that, please comment them, send me a message directly. This was a really cool experience, and my biggest takeaway for all of you in this is don't listen to other people when they tell you you can't do something. If you want to do something, or God places something on your heart that you want to do and you want to try out and you want to push your limits and try it out. Go for it. People are going to tell you it's not going to work. People are going to tell you that's impossible. Do it anyway. Free will in life, right? Free will. I will say I do my absolute best to live righteously and, make God proud and myself proud and all of that. But outside of that, push the limits. There is no ceiling. Go for it. And that's my final takeaway with all of this. I hope you enjoyed this. Again, reach out to me, ask your questions, comment some questions below. But thank you so much for following along with this journey, and I'm really excited to see what's next. I have some big plans for this year.